Right, Josh, well, before we look ahead, how do you reflect back on the performance and the result on Sunday against Adelaide?
I think considering we went down to 10 men pretty early on, I think defensively we worked really hard as a team. I think it helped a lot that we were back home with the crowd. I think we kind of got a bit of a push with that, and it helped us to sort of sit in and actually absorb some of the pressure. And then, we said at half time that we'll get our chances. We've got to try and keep a clean sheet, and that happened. Wayno came on and scored a really good goal. And then, obviously it's gutting that 2 minutes until the final whistle we concede the goal, but I think overall, I think we can be proud of ourselves because, considering the situation we're in, we did really well.
When you go down to 10 men so early in the game, defensively, obviously that puts pressure on. So how proud were you of the team, of the 10 men who kept them out for so long?
Amazing. I think, if anything, I think sometimes sort of psychologically it can give you a bit of a push because it's that sort of feeling, now we're really sort of working as a team. The boys are on the pitch then, really rallied with each other. But I was really proud of how we defended. I think it was superb for the 92 minutes that we did it. Unfortunately, we conceded a set piece, but that happens. We absorbed a lot of pressure. I think they had about 20 corners, to be fair, and the stats showed. So I think overall, I think we can be proud of how we defended.
Debut or Phoenix debut anyway, for Lucas Maregas out wide left. How did you assess how he got on?
Yeah, I think he did well. I think, especially again, considering we had to basically defend for 70 minutes, I think he worked really hard. He's been injured for a little while as well, so that was his first game back. I think he got a bit tired at the end, which is why we brought subs on. But I think, he put on a lot of effort, as the whole team did.
And in the first half, ball fell to you in a handy position. Still looking for that first Phoenix goal. How close was that actually to going in?
Oh, I think if he was next to the goal, you'd probably see it was a bit further than I would have liked it to be. From the side, it probably looked pretty spectacular, but I think I shanked a little bit. I thought I was offside, to be honest. I was a bit surprised that their line was so disjointed. Hopefully next time I can be a bit more composed.
Yeah, is there any? There's a couple of guys in the team who've played a lot more than you. Tim Payne, Alex Ruffo haven't scored a goal. Is it like a thing that you just want to get off your back at some point?
100%. We all get onto Ruff's about scoring, so I'm trying to make sure I don't get part of that club. I'm even further back than him. I'm never really getting up into that kind of position in the pitch unless it's a set piece. So when I do get there, I need to make sure I need to take advantage of it and actually make sure I get a goal in there.
And just a word on Jan Saas, obviously a disappointing end to his debut for Wellington. Have you had to wrap a bit of support around him as his teammates? Because I presume he would have been distraught at what happened.
Yeah, he was gutted, especially after we've been in the pre-season for 3 months. We've been working out very hard up until this first game, and he's a really good player on the ball as well. And I think we missed part of that at times, although I'd say the boys that came on in the second half really brought a lot of energy in, which shows the depth we have in the squad and the competition as well. But I think he was gutted. But again, we're a really good team, to be honest with you, so we all kind of got around him, and he knows he's slipped. You know what I mean? It wasn't nothing malicious, so I think in the end of the day he's unlucky. He'll be out for the 2 or 3 games, whatever it will end up being, and hopefully he'll be back then soon.
I saw he put a little comment on the Phoenix Instagram, sort of apologising. Does he address the team at all, when he gets sent off like that?
I think in a situation where, if it had been a situation that it was malicious, then you would expect something like that. But we all came in and his head was down. He was pretty gutted. We all could see how upset he was. So I think, if anything, it was more the boys getting around him, making sure he doesn't get too down about it, and make sure he stays fit when he comes back.
Yeah, the 3-match suspension seems very harsh. What was your sort of reaction to that?
I think it's always hard in the moment. I'm wary of ever criticising the rest, because I know it's a difficult job to do in the moment. You have to make a quick decision. I do think that it looked like he just sort of lost his footing, to be honest, and it wasn't actually malicious. So whether it's a 3-match or a 2-match ban or whatever it ends up being, I think is up to their decision. But I think it looked like he just slipped, to be honest with you. So we were all quite gutted in the moment in the game where we kind of thought that he just lost his bearings, and it was quite harsh to that extent.
Yeah, so you're hopeful the appeal might be successful.
Fingers crossed.
And in terms of the game this weekend, obviously the team's only played a few games in Wellington the last few years, but you're still searching for that first win in a few years. Do you feel like you sort of owe Central Coast one for the result from last year?
I think we do. Unfortunately, that was my first home game last week actually. Amazingly, after being here for 2 seasons, I had a few injuries last season as well. Unfortunately, I was out for that game against Central Coast, but I was in the stands and I remember how upset the whole team was that we hadn't managed to utilise coming home and actually using that sort of home fan environment. So I think it's definitely one for revenge, I think, this weekend.
Yeah, and because they didn't get to play the first weekend, was that a disadvantage, or what do you expect?
I'd say so. I saw the pitch. It was I don't know what the weather's been like. It must have been horrendous because the pitch was flooded. I think so. I think especially where we ended up playing last weekend. I think we have got a feeling of momentum that we can take into the next game with us.
Yeah, and how are you finding being in New Zealand, being in Wellington?
Oh, I love it. I love it. When we came here. Before we ended up having to relocate for the second time last year, we were here for about 3 months, and I was living in a flat with Wayno, Suts and Kel, and loved the city. And I really like the fact that you can walk around everywhere. And I don't have a car at the moment, so I don't need it, to be honest with you. I just get a lift with the boys, and we live quite central into the city, and I love it, to be honest. Yeah. Yeah,
and how frustrating was it to miss so much of last season as well with the injury?
Yeah, gutted. It was really, really tough. It was a weird one, to be honest with you. It was kind of just a niggly little thing that just persisted for a bit longer than it should have. And it was quite tough, especially when we got into the latter stages of the playoffs and stuff like that. And the end of the season, I was struggling watching it from the sideline. It was tough.